Whenever you are watching this, the franchise of Godzilla has either or is turning 70 years old. A 7-decade-long legacy of a movie franchise, and the longest running movie franchise of all time. Godzilla is and remains an icon of cinema and to some degree humanity itself. Throughout the years, Godzilla has impersonated our deepest fears, our greatest sins, as well as our greatest desires. However, while we on this channel have covered a few of those, today we go back to where it all began. The movie that started it all. A film project born out of nothing but a tragedy. Today we ask ourselves the question, does Godzilla still hold up? For this review I decided to watch the movie alongside my friend Jacob. He is by no means a die-hard Godzilla fan, but is very much aware of the legacy that this film holds. So for the first part of this video, as we go through the movie, I will from time to time cut to our reactions while watching it, as well as pointing out some things worth noting. The movie starts out with a ship getting attacked by something unknown. Something our main character Ogata quickly catches word of because he works for the lifeguards. However, from this shipwreck there is nothing to save, and over the course of a few more days, more and more ships go missing, until finally one day a survivor washes up on an island. A news team composed of one of Ogata's friends and a researcher then ventures out to visit said island and talk with the locals. They believe that all of this is the doing of a godlike creature called Gojira, a horrific monster that shall one day rise from the sea to punish humanity for the sins it has committed against nature and itself. The locals pray to keep this creature at bay, however it all proves worthless when the very next night during a hurricane the creature sets foot on land and wrecks their entire village, covering it in radiation and making the water undrinkable. I believe that now is a good time to point out two things. Firstly, the age of this movie really does show. That can of course be seen in something like the camera quality, the length of the movie, the acting, and especially the transitions. This movie either hard cuts or has these PowerPoint ass transitions that just do not fit at all. However, none of this is to take away from how well this movie builds up Godzilla and makes you really dread him. Up to this point, we haven't seen Godzilla once, and everything that has happened could be described as a natural disaster. However, for the keen viewers, there have been just enough hints as to that this thing really does exist. And I must emphasize, if it weren't for the sloppy ass dub me and my friend were hearing, this would have been horrifying.
Shang-Chi! Shang-Chi! Geh weg! Shang-Chi! Also was ich echt sagen muss, damals waren die Schauspieler echt scheiße. Banzai! Banzai!
Nicht mit der bloßen Hand anfassen. Ja.
Ja.
Eventually, however, the setup arc of this movie gets over with the reveal of Godzilla. At first I was gonna go on a rant on how terrible this is. I mean, he just appears out of nowhere, makes a loud noise, and then is gone as quickly as he appeared. That's until I thought about it a little bit more. You know what else appeared out of nowhere, caused a loud noise and great terror, and disappeared just as quickly as it happened? It's common knowledge that Godzilla is an allegory for atomic bombs. And nowhere is that clearer than in this movie. And that is by far the very best thing about this movie. The allegories. Everything from the imagery to the soundscape to the field. Everything about Godzilla has some sort of connection to the nuclear bomb. Be that the burning hellscape he leaves behind, or his footsteps, which are literally sampled bomb noises. To get this summary quickly out the way and not make this video too long, the rest of the movie is basically one big horror sequence where Godzilla attacks Tokyo twice, just like the 2 atomic bombs that hit Japan. Each time, the military is completely powerless and the people can do nothing but watch and attempt to run as Godzilla reduces Tokyo to ruins. With all hope lost, our main cast turns to a man called Dr. Serizawa. He has created a weapon that is even more frightening than the atomic bomb, and they manage to convince him to use it against Godzilla. However, Serizawa goes down with it, so that such a horrible weapon may never see the light of day, ever again. I would right here like to apologize that this video isn't as funny or crazily edited as the other reviews, because I hope that you understand that this is a movie that is very hard to joke about. It has a very dark past behind it, and even if I was to ignore that, there's just not a lot to complain about in this movie, because the things it sets out to do, it does perfectly. One of those things is Godzilla. My fucking lord, I did not remember him being this terrifying as I rewatched this. His design is one of the best the Showa series has to offer, and the black and white camera only adds to the aura of this creature. Some shots where he's just in the background over the destroyed Tokyo genuinely gave me chills. And seeing the aftermath of his destruction just makes him so much more terrifying. I kid you not, this movie has a shot where Godzilla attacks a family, and we're like, yeah, okay, that's horrifying, they're dead. But then the movie doubles down on it by showing that one of the kids survived and has to watch her mother and sister die of radiation poisoning in a hospital. Like, listen to those screams, man. I would not be surprised if they actually shot her mother for this scene. This is bone-chilling. Unlike in later reviews that I'm still recording, I can't really show you many funny scenes of me and the crew just talking shit. Because Jacob and I were just sitting in silence, just eating this movie up. Cause it's good. Godzilla in this movie is an unstoppable force of nature. Nothing the military throws against it works in the slightest. In a detail I haven't seen anybody point out yet, actually. The only time that we see Godzilla take any form of damage in this movie is through nature, when he steps on some electrified water. I think Godzilla being a force, literally indestructible by everything but a weapon worse than the one that created it and nature itself, is such an interesting version of the character that we don't actually see that much in the franchise, and I would love to see that again. But no matter how much I praise this version of Godzilla, there's obviously some flaws with it. I'm pretty sure we all know how hard it was for the man inside the suit to actually be Godzilla for this movie, because he just kept fainting from how heavy the suit was. And while I think that the heavy nature of the suit actually adds to the atmosphere, there are certain scenes that drag out for just a bit too long. And every time that they have to switch to the hand puppet, the entire mood of the movie is ruined. Like, what in the fuck even is this? Am Anfang war ja so ein bisschen, naja, jetzt ist einfach echt komisch.
Das sah gerade total lustig aus, wie sich das Vieh bewegt hat. Guck da. Hast du gerade gesehen, wie der geguckt hat? Ja. Als ob er Weed genommen hat oder so.
But as immersion breaking as some scenes may be, that doesn't take away from the movie. Cause every time the movie unimmerses you, it still has one other trick up its sleeve to bring you back in. That trick being... like to admit it or not, a human perspective on things is important for every good monster movie. If I simply throw Godzilla into the ocean from far away, he may as well be a fish. But if I throw Godzilla onto something that we humans understand more thoroughly, like a bathtub, yeah, he's pretty damn big. People say that the original Godzilla is still a masterpiece. One thing that they point to is that it not only did Godzilla, but also the human characters right. They then go on to point out Dr. Serizawa, where I cannot deny Dr. Serizawa is an amazingly written character. He has created a weapon that is worse than the atomic bomb. A weapon that is now the only way to actually kill Godzilla. However, he hates himself for ever creating such a weapon and now wants to destroy it so it does not get into the hands of the military and ends up ending the world. He's almost like a sort of antagonist towards the last half of the movie, because we know that this weapon needs to be used, otherwise Godzilla isn't dying. But we also fully understand his motives. So when he joins our humans in at the end and even sacrifices himself just so that this weapon truly never gets released to the public, that is one hell of a good character arc for you there. But besides that, I'm sorry, this is a part of the movie that really does not hold up. The characters are horrible. There is an interesting dynamic with the research professor, because he thinks that Godzilla should be studied as a creature instead of killed, but his character is nothing more than to say those exact words. The main character is completely forgettable. The only personality he has is being a lifeguard, and that only comes up at the end of the movie. I'm sorry to say this, but besides Serizawa, the humans in this cast are nothing special and have not stood the test of kaiju film time. To answer the question that we asked ourselves at the beginning of this video, has the original Godzilla movie held up 70 years of time? It depends on how you look at it. If you view this movie in comparison to other movies today, it has not stood the test of time. Characters are for the most part poorly written, the pacing is a bit all over the place, and the editing and some of the acting is not really watchable anymore nowadays. However, if you look at this movie for what it was made and when it was made, I'll be damned, this movie holds up so well. I'd even go as far to say that this movie holds up better than newer franchises' first entries. Then the reason for that is simply that it laid the groundwork perfectly. If you come here for a monster movie, the monster is done super well. If you come here for a movie about humans after nuclear bombs, you get to see that. If you come here to see an allegory war movie, you get to see that. The movie has everything that it set out to do done down to a T. And that's not to say that everything of this movie has aged poorly. Some of the effects are still just as terrifying as they were back then. And the soundtrack of this movie, composed by the legend Akira Ifukube, is of course an absolute banger. This soundtrack brings in so many classic Godzilla tracks. Overall, Jacob and I had a blast while watching this movie. So as you watch over just a few more moments we had while watching this movie, I would like you to know that if you can pick this movie up on DVD or somewhere, you should absolutely go give it a try. Speaking of DVD, whenever I get my hands on one, I'll do a quick review for it. The DVD I got for this gets a 1 out of 5. It has quite the cool cover and the nice images that go along on the back of it. However, it has absolutely no menu and contains only the movie itself.
Bin gespannt, wie der Godzilla aussieht.
Oh. Jetzt sieht man's.
Das ist der Kopf.
Sieht total billig aus, Junge.
Und Sie bitte?
Ich habe 4 Kinder und mein Mann kommt nicht wieder.
Ja, das ist traurig.
Können Sie uns denn nicht...
Ja, das ist traurig. Okay, nächste.
Ja, ist traurig. Okay, nächste.
Von 138.